Before the day fully awakens, before the noise gathers its momentum and the world begins to demand answers, we arrive at the morning quietly. This is not a rushed entrance. This is not a performance. This is a slow, reverent arrival at the altar of a new day. We come barefoot, stripped of titles, defenses, and expectations, stepping gently into the light of dawn with hearts that are honest and tired, yet still hopeful. We do not come as perfected people. We come as human souls who survived the night. Some of us carry the weight of yesterday still clinging to our thoughts. Some of us wake with fear already seated in the chest, whispering concerns about what lies ahead. Grief lingers for things lost, words unsaid, relationships strained, dreams delayed. Uncertainty rattles softly in the bones, reminding us that we do not know how everything will unfold. And in this moment, we stop pretending otherwise. This morning, we do not armor ourselves with false strength. We do not announce confidence we do not feel. Instead, we tell the truth. We admit that we are tired, not just physically, but emotionally and spiritually. Tired of carrying questions without answers. Tired of replaying worries that never seem to rest. Tired of holding together what feels like it might unravel at any moment. And we bring that tiredness to God without apology. This prayer is not hurried. It is not memorized or recited from habit. It rises slowly, deeply, from the place beneath the ribs where real surrender lives. It is the kind of prayer shaped by breath and honesty. We whisper, sometimes silently, sometimes aloud, "Lord, I cannot carry this alone anymore." We name the worries that crowd our thoughts. We hand over the anxiety that tightens our chest when the world grows quiet. We release the restlessness that keeps our hearts racing ahead of the moment we are standing in. We ask God to take what was never meant to be held by us alone. The fear for tomorrow, the ache from yesterday, the pressure to have everything figured out. We offer these burdens not with fear of judgment, but with the trust of a child placing broken pieces into a loving father's hands. Believing not in punishment, but in restoration. This is an act of courage. This is faith expressed through surrender. And then, gently, we ask for peace. Not a peace that depends on everything going right. Not a peace that waits for answers or solutions, but a peace that exists inside the storm. A peace that settles the heart even when circumstances remain unsettled. A peace that quiets the inner noise when the outer world refuses to slow down. We ask for a calm that does not deny reality, but steadies us within it, as the morning light stretches across the day. This prayer sets the tone for everything that follows. It reminds us that we do not have to face the hours ahead alone, that we are allowed to begin the day honestly. That weakness offered to God becomes a doorway for strength. This moment grounds us. It anchors us. It tells the soul, you are seen, you are safe, you are welcome here. And so we rise from this morning arrival a little lighter, not because life has suddenly become easy, but because we have chosen not to carry it alone. The day may still hold challenges, but our hearts are steadied by the knowledge that God walks with us from the very first step. This is how the journey begins, not with perfection but with presence, honesty, and hope. There is a quiet lie many of us have learned to live with, the belief that faith requires performance, that we must arrive before God composed, confident, and carefully edited. That fear should be hidden, doubt swallowed, and worry denied in order to appear spiritually strong. But this is not the language of heaven. God does not ask for rehearsed words or polished prayers. God asks for truth. Honesty is not a failure of faith. It is the doorway into deeper faith. When we tell God the truth about what we feel, we are not confessing weakness, we are practicing trust. We are saying, I believe you are safe enough to hear me as I am. God has never been impressed by religious performance, but he is deeply moved by sincere hearts. The real is always preferred over the rehearsed. Fear does not disqualify us from prayer. Worry does not cancel our devotion. They are not enemies of faith when they are brought into God's presence. They only become destructive when they are denied, hidden, or allowed to rule in silence. Honest prayer does not pretend fear is absent. It admits fear exists but refuses to let fear sit on the throne of the heart. To say, Lord, I am afraid, is not disbelief, it is intimacy. Shame loses its power the moment honesty is spoken. Shame thrives in secrecy. It whispers that if we reveal our true struggles, we will be rejected, corrected, or disappointed by God. But honesty exposes shame for the liar it is. God does not punish truth, God meets it. When we bring our worries into the light of prayer, they stop growing in the dark. What is hidden grows heavier. What is confessed begins to heal. There is holiness in showing up unfiltered. There is reverence in kneeling while still burdened. The world may reward certainty and strength, but heaven gathers the weary and the honest. God does not scold the trembling heart that tells the truth, He covers it. He listens without condemnation. He does not withdraw from our vulnerability, He draws closer to it. We must remember this. Honesty does not weaken God's power. It invites God's presence. God is not intimidated by our confusion, our questions, or our fatigue. He already knows them. Honesty simply opens the door for Him to step into the places we have tried to manage alone. When we speak truthfully to God, we are not informing Him, we are surrendering access. Think of how a child cries before learning composure or language. A child does not measure tears or apologize for them. The cry itself is the communication. That, too, is prayer. That, too, is worship. God receives our unfiltered emotions with the same compassion. We do not need perfect words. We need honest ones. When we stop pretending, something sacred happens. The pressure to appear strong dissolves. The exhaustion of hiding lifts. We realize we were never asked to impress God, only to trust Him. Honesty becomes the bridge between our humanity and God's mercy. It is the place where healing begins, it's quiet work, so we come honestly. We bring the fear we feel, the worry we carry, the pain we have not yet named. We do not exaggerate our strength or minimize our hurt. We simply say, "Here I am." And in that moment, faith is not diminished, it is deepened. Because God does not meet us in who we pretend to be. He meets us in who we truly are. After we have come honestly before God, naming our fears, admitting our exhaustion, and offering our hidden burdens, the natural next step is surrender. Surrender is not a sign of weakness or defeat. It is an act of wisdom, trust, and spiritual courage. It is the moment when we recognize that some weight was never meant for us to carry alone, and that God's hands are far stronger and wider than ours. Surrender is active, not passive. It is not collapsing under pressure or fleeing from responsibility. It is the conscious choice to place our burdens in God's care while continuing to walk faithfully through our day. It is dependency in motion, a reliance on God that does not remove our agency but redirects it. Instead of clinging tightly to anxiety or trying to control every outcome, we release what we cannot manage and take the next step, knowing God holds the outcome. When we surrender, God becomes closer. He is not distant or aloof. He draws near when we let go. The act of placing our fears, worries, and uncertainties into His hands is a bridge, connecting our frail human strength with His infinite power. Every time we release control, we create space for God's presence to move more fully in our lives. Surrender is the spiritual law that invites divine intervention. The lighter our grip, the heavier God's hand can be in supporting us. Humans were designed for purpose, not pressure. Our calling is not to be saviors of our own chaos, or bearers of the world's burdens. We were created to live with intention, guided by faith, and strengthened through reliance on God. Life often tries to trick us into thinking that endurance is measured by how much we can carry alone. But true strength is found in knowing when to stop carrying and start leaning. Surrender teaches us that God's wisdom and power are sufficient for every challenge we face. When we hand over our worries, something remarkable happens. Worry loses authority. It no longer dictates our mood, our decisions, or our perception of the future. Anxiety may knock, doubt may whisper, but they no longer have the final say. Surrender breaks the illusion that we must hold control over outcomes to survive. Instead, it places God as the gatekeeper of our hearts, allowing peace, rest, and clarity to enter where fear once reigned. Surrender is also deeply restorative. When we stop carrying burdens that were never ours, our spirits lighten, our minds become clearer, and our bodies feel renewed. Peace begins to flow where tension and resistance once held sway. Strength is restored where weakness threatened to dominate. Endurance becomes sustainable because it is supported by a power far greater than our own. The spiritual exchange is profound. As we relinquish worry, God fills the space with peace. As we release control, He supplies guidance. As we hand over fear, He returns courage. Ultimately, surrender is a daily practice, not a one-time event. It requires humility, honesty, and a willingness to trust God even when the outcome is unseen. Every step of surrender reinforces our faith and reminds us that we are not meant to walk through life burdened alone. God's hands are steady, His strength is sufficient, and His love is unfailing. And when we choose to surrender, we are not stepping into weakness. We are stepping into the profound, empowering truth that we are fully held by God. In this surrender, we discover freedom. Freedom from fear, from endless self-reliance, from the tyranny of overthinking every outcome. We are reminded that we were never created to shoulder more than God intends, and when we let go, we allow Him to carry us forward. Surrender transforms the way we live, pray, and move through each moment. It is the sacred act that turns human limitation into divine possibility and ensures that no burden, no matter how heavy, will ever overwhelm us when we walk in trust. After honesty and surrender, the next gift we encounter is peace, not a fleeting emotion or temporary relief, but a deep, abiding, sovereign calm that resides in the heart even when the world around us rages. Divine peace is unlike anything the world offers. It is not dependent on circumstances, it does not require problems to vanish, and it does not demand that life be predictable before it can dwell within us. God's peace exists in the eye of the storm, not just on days when the sky is clear. Peace is not the absence of trouble. Challenges will arrive, storms will come, and uncertainty will knock at our doors. Life will continue to throw unexpected trials our way. Yet God's peace does not abandon us in these moments. Instead, it moves into the heart of difficulty, establishing a calm that is unshaken by chaos. It is not naive or dismissive of hardship. It is a quiet authority that says, "I am here, and you will not be overcome, even though the storm persists." God's peace enters unresolved situations. It does not wait for all the problems to be solved or all questions to have answers. It steps into uncertainty and breathes steadiness where panic would otherwise dominate. When we surrender our worries, God plants His peace within us, like a seed of stillness that grows stronger with each act of trust. It is internal architecture, a foundation that braces the soul so that even if life continues to shift and shake around us, our inner sanctuary remains intact. Peace guards the heart and mind. Anxiety may attempt to intrude, fear may knock repeatedly, and doubt may rise in the silence of our thoughts. Yet divine peace acts as both sentinel and sanctuary, holding our hearts steady and protecting our minds from being overtaken by every loud, what if, or imagined disaster. It is a spiritual authority that replaces uncertainty with trust, tremors with calm, and chaos with assurance. Peace does not negotiate timidly with fear. It commands fear to step aside, not by human strength, but by God's unshakable presence. Calm becomes a foundation, not merely a feeling. Many of us mistake peace for a temporary state of comfort or a brief reprieve from worry. True, divine peace, however, is more than sensation. It is the structural support upon which faith is built. It does not come and go with our moods, nor does it falter with life's unpredictability. It provides grounding that allows us to navigate storms with confidence, to make decisions without panic, and to face uncertainty without surrendering to despair. It is steady, enduring, and invincible because it rests on God Himself. When we cultivate God's peace within, it transforms the way we live each day. We no longer walk in reaction to every fear, nor are we captive to the persistent whisper of worry. We begin to see that life's storms cannot dictate our inner climate. Even in moments of chaos, we can breathe steadily, think clearly, and act faithfully. Peace shifts from being a passive presence to an active influence, shaping our words, our posture, our responses, and our relationships. It becomes a witness of God's sovereignty, an invisible testimony that others can sense even before it is spoken aloud. Divine peace does not require that we fully understand what is happening or why. It asks only that we trust the one who holds all understanding. In the uncertainty of life, God's peace assures us that we are not abandoned, that we are equipped to endure, and that our hearts are safely held. This calm, rooted in His presence, allows us to stand unshaken in the storm, to continue forward with steady faith, and to know with certainty that we are accompanied by a power far greater than any difficulty we face. Ultimately, God's peace is both a gift and a posture. It is received when we surrender, and it is maintained as we live in alignment with Him. It transforms ordinary moments into sacred spaces, ordinary hearts into sanctuaries, and ordinary days into opportunities to embody the calm of heaven on earth. When God's peace resides within, we are no longer defined by fear or circumstance. Instead, we are defined by the quiet authority of a heart anchored in Him. A heart that remains calm because the one who holds it never wavers. Once honesty has opened the heart, surrender has released the burden, and divine peace has settled within. The next step is living it. Peace is not meant to stay confined to our private prayers or quiet moments of surrender. It is meant to be embodied, spoken, and carried outward into the rhythms of daily life. It becomes our language, our posture, and our testimony, a living witness of God's presence in a world that often feels loud, chaotic, and uncertain. When we walk the day with God's calm, it begins to shape everything we do. Our words soften, The tone of our speech becomes measured by the steadiness of the peace within. We no longer react instantly to every fear or frustration, but respond thoughtfully, guided by the quiet authority of God's presence. Our movements, from simple gestures to purposeful steps, carry a calm assurance that inspires confidence in others. Even our breathing, often shallow and hurried under stress, deepens, aligning our bodies with the rhythm of a heart that rests in God. Peace also equips us to handle life's inevitable return of worry and doubt. Challenges will arise, questions will persist, and anxiety may attempt to reclaim the space we surrendered. But peace does not vanish with the reappearance of difficulty. Instead, surrender becomes a repeated, deliberate practice. Each time we offer our burdens back to God, we reinforce the covenant between surrender and divine provision. Worry may visit, but it no longer sets permanent residence. Fear may knock, but it cannot force entry. Each act of surrender is a declaration that God is the keeper of our hearts, our days, and our tomorrows. Walking in peace also has a quiet, profound influence on those around us. A calm presence in a tense room, a gentle word in a moment of stress, a steady posture amid uncertainty. These are ripples of God's peace that extend beyond ourselves. Others may not see the prayer we prayed at dawn or the surrender we practiced in solitude, but they sense the difference. Peace is contagious, not through noise or boastful declarations, but through the quiet strength of a heart anchored in God. Ordinary interactions become opportunities to demonstrate the power of surrender and the reality of divine calm. Every ordinary day can become sacred when lived in this manner. The mundane routines, the repetitive tasks, the waiting rooms, and traffic lights all become spaces where God's peace is visible, tangible, and transformative. Peace transforms the ordinary into holy encounters, allowing us to carry faith into moments others might overlook. When we walk in God's calm, the world witnesses a rhythm that does not depend on perfection, outcomes, or control, only on God's sustaining presence. Finally, walking with God's calm is an intentional daily choice. It requires mindfulness, prayer, and repeated surrender. Each morning we rise, we offer our day to God. Each challenge that appears, we lift to Him again. And in every action, word, and thought, we allow the peace He provides to guide us. This practice is not passive, it is active, deliberate, and faithful. We carry God's peace outward, not as a shield from life, but as a testimony of His sustaining power in it. As we move through the day, we can declare with confidence, God holds what we release. Our worries, fears, and burdens no longer define us because they reside in His hands. Our hearts are lighter, our minds steadier, and our steps more certain. Peace becomes more than an inner state, it becomes the language of our lives, the rhythm of our actions, and the quiet testimony of God's abiding presence. Walking in this calm, we reflect the reality that God is sovereign, He is present, and He carries us through every ordinary, sacred moment. In this way, each day becomes a witness, a demonstration that peace is not a promise of ease, but a proof of God's nearness, power, and faithful keeping.